The first thing I wish I knew before I bought my first classic car was how slow some older cars can be. As you can see here, my first classic truck was a 1952 Chevy 3600, which is a 3/4 ton, that we named Lucille. Lucille was a fun truck to have, but it had a straight six and a 4-speed automatic transmission. And a 4-speed manual transmission. This truck was fun to drive, however, top speed on this truck was maybe 55 miles an hour, and you wouldn't really want to cruise for very long at much over 45 miles an hour. So it's not to say that those trucks are not to be owned, it's just that I wish I would have known how slow it was before I bought it. I'm sitting in Betty White, our 1956 Chevy BelAir. Betty White has a 327 small block Chevy with a turbo 350 transmission. When you are doing 70 miles an hour down the freeway, it's turning 2,600, 2,500 RPMs, which is considerably higher than a modern transmission would have. This means that your fuel economy is going to suffer a little bit, and it is a little bit harder on the motor. It's not to say that Betty White can't go down the freeway. It can. However, I much prefer to cruise at a lower speed with this car because the RPMs are so much higher. I wish I would have known that before I purchased the car. Now I'm sitting in our 1957 Chevy truck we named Lucy. Lucy has a 4-speed automatic transmission, which allows me to have that overdrive ratio for the final gear. That means that I can go down the freeway at a higher speed with a much lower RPM, saving us money on fuel and wear and tear on the motor. Now, oddly enough, this has a big block Chevy and gets better freeway gas mileage than our small block Chevy BelAir. The second thing I wish I knew before I bought my first classic vehicle was spending a little bit more money up front can save you money in the long run. Things like body work and paint are very expensive to get done. Unless you can do those yourself, it's going to cost a lot of money. So if I could have bought Lucy or Lucille in a little bit better condition than I had originally, I would have saved myself a ton of money. Now that was what drove me to buy Lucy here. Lucy is pretty much done. Paint, body work done, new motor, upgraded transmission. So it may have cost me more money up front to buy this truck, but in the long run, if my goal was just to have a classic car that I can enjoy and drive, I'm better off to spend the money up front. The third thing that I wish I would have known before I bought my first classic car is how easy these things are to work on. There's just not a lot to mess around with here. You got a carbureted motor, so you got fuel. Oftentimes they have a mechanical fuel pump. This one has an electric fuel pump. It's got an alternator, it's got a mechanical fan, one simple radiator, we got one loop of heater hose that goes to the heater core. Just ignore the bungee cord holding the battery in place. But they're just not that complex to work on. The fourth thing I wish I would have known before I bought my first classic car was to look up the specific models that you're looking at purchasing. My first truck that we bought was our 1952 Chevy truck. It was a 3600, which is a 3/4 ton truck. I had thought that the 50s from 48 to 53 trucks are all the same. But the reality is once you step up to that 3600, parts like brakes, suspension components and things like that are very hard to find for those 3/4 ton trucks. So I almost had to convert the whole truck over to half ton to be able to get that truck to perform as I wanted. The fifth thing that I wish I knew before I bought my first classic car was what upgrades I'd want to do and how much they cost before I bought the car. Betty White here, we have done a handful of upgrades to it, and I didn't even think about those things until after we purchased the car and realized the difference between a car from 1956 and a modern vehicle that we drive today. So Betty White here, she's got an upgraded radiator. We were having some problems with the car overheating, and so this is one of the first things that we attacked on this car. Second of all, because this car is going to get driven fairly consistently by my wife, we decided to upgrade our carburetor to a Holley Sniper fuel injection system so that it can be more reliable for her and consistent on them cold days. Now there are some other upgrades that we did to the car that didn't have to happen. We ended up changing out the exhaust headers because they were having a lot of problems leaking. We put different mufflers on the car because we wanted it to sound a certain way. So planning out those types of upgrades before you buy the car, so you have an idea of the total cost, is a really good idea. One thing we have not upgraded on this car is the braking system. You can see right here we have the original or an original style master cylinder, and it has the original drum brakes both front and rear. So that's one thing that we're going to be upgrading on the car fairly soon. This car also has an upgraded suspension system. Kind of hard to see here, but you can see the Ride Tech logo there with the sway bar, brand new springs and shocks in there. We didn't really think that a car like this would need that kind of an upgrade, but after driving the car for about a year, we recognized the amount of body roll and sway that we were getting out of this car was probably not as safe as we would want. So that was why we upgraded this system. Since we've installed this system, I gotta tell you, this car handles like a dream. Thanks for watching my video. I hope it helps you on your journey to purchasing and maybe even working on a classic car of your own. Please don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button, and pay attention. Hold on. Please don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button so that you can stay up to date with ways to keep your classic cars running down the road reliably. Thanks. Have a good day.